How do you make your dreams a reality? Has it been very challenging? Why? The Dream to Rise podcast was created to inspire individuals on their journeys of personal and professional growth. Recognizing the power of dreams and aspirations, this podcast aims to share authentic stories, valuable insights, and transformative strategies from a diverse range of guests. It serves as a platform for encouraging listeners to overcome obstacles, embrace their potential, and pursue their passions with purpose and determination, ultimately empowering them to turn their dreams into reality. Let us listen to our guests and learn from their story. Welcome, my dear friends and listeners who are here now tuning in at our Dream to Rise podcast. I have one special guest, an immigrant also, like me, who worked hard moving from one place to another, from his country to the U.S. He was born in Havana, Cuba, 1951. 8 years later, the turbulent winds of political change swept over the land of his birth, leaving his family with little choice but to immigrate toward the U.S. in search of what? A new life, just like everyone here, and lived in freedom. There he realized his earliest Cuban childhood dreams of becoming an architect and started an enduring and highly acclaimed architectural firm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And his life story and award-winning architectural designs were entered into the United States Congressional Record of the House of Representatives 19, forever enshrined into the U.S. Library of Congress. An American flag was flown over the U.S. Capitol to celebrate his American legacy in 2022. And with the same dedication and love that made him an architectural success and iconic designer, he has now turned his attention to writing books, and his debut, Joining Back into the Vault in Search of My Faded Cuban Childhood Footprints, was recently released in new hardcover and paperback editions. The Spanish language book La Bóveda En Busca de Mi Niñez Cubana was released in 2026. I hope I got it right, in terms of how I pronounce it. And his fresh voice and humanist values will refresh one's soul. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Mario Cartaya. Welcome, Mario, to our podcast. It's so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show and perhaps enlighten the listeners to what they can do.
Oh, yes. And that's the main reason why we have this podcast, because I want them to really listen to our journeys, to our stories that would inspire them, not to stop them from realizing their dreams. So, as a start, can you share your journey from Cuba to the United States? What motivated your decision to migrate? And what are some of your biggest challenges you faced when you first arrived in the US?
I was born from two very different families. My maternal family were all into the arts, whether it is music, art, whether it was two-dimensional, three-dimensional art. They were all into the arts. My paternal family, they were all accountants, all of them. And I grew up in a Spanish-type household. By Spanish, I mean Spain, right? In Havana, where we all lived together. And I was raised by all of them at one time or another. So I'm a mixture of all that cultural awareness that comes from living with people that are so different in the way that they look at life. I thought I was going to enjoy that through the rest of my life. Everything seemed to change one spring day in 1960 when my father disappeared. My father was an accountant. His clients were all Americans, companies like Frigidaire, Sylvania, General Electric. He had in his ledgers all their financial investments in Cuba, not only the retail spaces that they had, their offices, and also their CEO's homes in Havana. When in 1960, Castro decided to confiscate all American properties, three goons visited his office with machine guns, demanding his ledgers with all those numbers, all those dollar values and addresses of all his American clients, investors. My father refused. He was held back in detention. A couple of days later, he kept refusing until they finally took him to the Argentinian revolutionary Che Guevara, who told him to give him those ledgers. My father refused again. Che Guevara was not very happy. He proceeded to belittle him in a prolonged tirade of accusations, profanities, and demands until he finally told him, I don't like where this is going, and you're not going to like it either. If I were you, you would give me those ledgers that I want. I can't be responsible for what would happen if you said no again. So my father, with that threat, decided to go back, get his ledgers, and bring it to him. When he did, Guevara's last words to my father were, if I were you, Ignacio, I would leave the island with your two boys and your wife as quickly as you can. I can't offer you any protection. So now we have to leave. For I don't find out about this until he comes back from that to the house. He asks the whole family to get together, all my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, everybody showed up. We were so happy that he was alive. But then he proceeded to tell us what happened. He has sent my brother and I to our rooms to go to bed to spare us the story I just told you. But I didn't go to bed. I got up to the second floor balcony and I hid behind the balusters to see why everyone was so sad on the first floor. And I heard the story that I just told you. With that, my grandfather got up to my father, put his arm around him, and said, Ignacio, you cannot be a husband to my daughter. You cannot be a father to my grandchildren if you're dead. Travel to the United States and come back when this nightmare is over. So right there, at age 8, I knew I was leaving the United States. I also knew that I was leaving the family that I grew up every day of my life. And it was a moment of tremendous change within me. What my subconscious did, I now know, is that it took my entire Cuban memories and put them in a vault. That's why the book is called Journey Back into the Vault. Well, that vault laid for 56 years inside me. I didn't know it was there. I couldn't feel it. I didn't know the stories of the first 8 years of my life until finally in 2016, I was asked to help President Obama through John Kerry, the Secretary of State, in trying to help his rapprochement trip to Cuba, which I did. When the group left, I decided not to go with it. I did not want my first trip back, even if it was 56 years after arriving here, to be part of a political junket. So I stayed behind. But when I saw him on television a few days later from Havana, in which he began his speech by quoting the famous words of redemption by Jose Marti, which says, I cultivate a white rose for a friend. I also cultivate a white rose for an enemy. Those beautiful words of reconciliation got to me. And I decided right in there that if the American president could do that, say that, why could I forgive as well? So a few months later, in 2016, I went with two friends of mine. That's the book. It's a story of what led to that trip and what I found when I got there, trying to remember the first 8 years of my life by walking in the faded footsteps of every house I live in, of the school that I went to, on the parks that I played in, and on other places synonymous with our lives in Cuba. It worked extremely well. We can talk about that in a minute.
Wonderful. Oh my. It was really a struggle during that time, especially for your dad. Just hearing them. How old were you during that time when you were listening and trying to hide again?
I was 8 years old.
Oh, still
I was a little boy.
yes. But I'm glad he made the decision right away.
Well, he had to make the decision. I think that my grandfather summed it up. You cannot be a father. You
Yes.
cannot, help us grow if you're dead.
Yes. Oh
So
my.
for the sake of family, for the love of a family, he gave up everything he had. My mother did too, and we came here.
Hmm. When you came here, how did you adapt to the cultural differences between Cuba and the United
You know,
States?
it's a funny thing. I'll tell you, the first thing I learned, I came here in November 13th of 1960. That's just a couple of weeks after Halloween, right? We don't have Halloween in Cuba.
Oh, yes. Same.
So, first day here, I was always very intrepid, right? So, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to discover the US that afternoon that I arrived. So, I went for a walk around the neighborhood where we were staying, and I noticed that in every home, they have skeletons, they had dead people, they have ghosts, they have swords through people's heads, this kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it scared me. And I went back later, and when my father came back from looking for a job, I said, Pop, are the Americans into voodoo or Santeria? And he goes, No, why would you say that? And I told him what I just told you. And he began to laugh. He goes, No, 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 Mario. That's a tradition. They have a day called Halloween. And then you go and you get toys and you get candy. I said, Oh, so can we do it tonight? No, 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 not tonight. That was 2 weeks ago. That sucked, right? So I quickly learned, all right, there's a culture difference.
Yes.
I need to learn. But going to school, being in the US, wasn't that difficult for me. When I was in Cuba, Cuba had a very strong partnership with the US for almost 100 years. So the shows that I watched were cowboys and Indians. Well, America was the land of cowboys and Indians. The comics that I watched were, Mighty Mouse and
Donald
Tom and Jerry, and I could see
I
those here, right? And the music that I listened to was rock and roll, of course. It's the 1950s. And rock and roll is American. So you could see it here too. And baseball, everything that my life would revolve around baseball. This was the land of Major League Baseball. And many of the Cuban players were already playing in the major leagues here. So to me, adjusting to the US wasn't difficult. The difficult part was learning the nuances and the slang. I'll tell you another really funny story of growing up. In the fifth grade, I made a friend. This is when I first came in the fifth grade. I meet a friend. He's an American kid, Mike Daly. I loved him. And he says, Mario, you need to learn football. No idea what football is. Okay. So he begins to teach me football, right? And then one day I come to school and I'm sick. And he begins to laugh at me. And he goes, Mario, ha, 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 your nose is running. So what did I think? He's making fun of me because I don't speak English all that well. So I said, no, Mike, nose, no run. Foot, run. To which he says, no, 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 no. Your nose is running and your feet smell. So I punched him. He was making fun of me. This is my buddy that I spent all of my time together in recess. I punched him, and one of the teachers sees me. So now Mike and I end up being taken to the principal, who can't understand why I punched a kid that I'm with all the time, that we're buddies, right? And so they send out for the only teacher. I'm talking 1960, 1960. The only teacher in that school who spoke Spanish, one. So he comes over and he says, Mario, why did you punch a friend? So I told him. He was making fun of me. And he began to laugh. So then he translated to the principal, who then begins to laugh. And he goes, okay, this is just a misunderstanding. Mario, you need to learn the slang.
Yeah.
You guys just hug it out and go back to class. I know you two are going to be just fine. So we hugged it out. And I realized I need to not just learn the culture, I need to also adapt. I need to know the slang so life can be easier and better for me. This was embarrassing, right? And I didn't want Mike to punch me back, which I never did. We were friends through high school, even through college. And we became friends for a lifetime. He just passed away about 6 months ago. So I'm sorry to
Oh,
say
I'm
that. I would
sorry.
have loved to have heard this part of the interview. Um, so yeah, for me, it was the adaptation. And of course, as you get older and then racism begins to raise its head, um, it becomes a matter of how do I deal with these new walls, right, that are being putting up inside of me. You can only fight for a while until you realize this hurts.
Mhm.
Fighting every day. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. No matter what, when I go home, I hurt. I better come up with a different way. And I learned something that I practiced from high school on. And I raised my kids to that, which is quiet confidence. You know that person that wants to stop you is weak. That's why they want to stop you. So you don't have to go down to that level because then you lose your dignity. And you certainly don't want to start something that you give somebody else a chance to punish you because you're the one who's different. Then you lose your integrity, who you are. So I learned to use my intellect to kind of dance with the storm in front of me and then walk away, never allowing the storm to interfere with my goal. My goal never changed. I learned that.
Wonderful.
And
How
that's,
old are your kids now?
well, they're both in 40 and 41.
They're already adults.
And they have kids of their own. Quiet confidence is a way of teaching that runs through my family.
Exactly.
Be
Yes,
yourself all the time.
yeah, be authentic. And I agree with you that don't go to the level of those who attack you because they're just insecure. They're just looking for what they are missing, which is with you. So it's their defense mechanism. They try to fight it out because that's what they're lacking. So just be careful in terms of how you respond because
Quiet confidence. You don't have to play their game. You don't have to become a bully like them. You don't have to use profanity. You don't have to accuse them. Nothing like that. You retain your dignity and your integrity. Sometimes we just say no
Mhm.
and walk away.
Yes, especially with what's happening right now. The
Mhm.
world is full of chaos, and we don't have control over that, but we have control over what we think, what we do, and what we say. It's all about how we project ourselves to the community. So, what inspired you to pursue a career in architecture, and how did your experiences in Cuba influence that passion?
Well, it was the way that I was brought up. I had half of my family. My mother was
Yeah,
a
in
concert
arts.
pianist. Her father played the guitar and did artwork that made it to some of the museums in Havana. My uncle was a philosopher. My grandmother wrote poem books. So I had that artistic background that I was raised into. And then from my father's side, I had the make it happen. And to make it happen, you learn to plan. You learn to say, here's my dream. How can I make that dream happen? Well, here's the method of making the dream happen. The exact same scientific methods that accountants use in order to check books and check where the money is coming and going and where the profit centers are and what works and what doesn't work. So with that combination, and my grandfather daily asking me to play with three-dimensional toys, I think I love to design, love to create. I love to take nothing and make something out of it. When you design anything, you have a blank palette, you have an open air space inside which you're going to create a building. And that building is going to then react to a human need. How beautiful. So, what does a building want to be in order to react to that human need? If the human need is to pray, how can that building inspire the prayers to pray and to believe? If that need is a city hall, how do you inspire the people that go to the meeting to understand that in a democracy, everyone has a point of view? The transparency between those who govern and those who are governed. How does your building do that, right? If it's a courtroom, how does your building help those victims that are waiting for their turn in court to relax?
Yeah.
so that they can then go in there and do what they need to do, right? If it's an airport, how do you begin to inspire those kids and let them know that within a few minutes you're going to be at 30,000 feet with motors turning? How do you excite people to the beauty, the magic of air travel? So all that I was already thinking about when I was a little boy, based on my conversations with my philosophical uncle, my fun-loving piano-playing uncle, my classical pianist mom, my grandfather. All those philosophical conversations about life and architecture occurred at a very early age because I would start it. And it was part of our relationship to talk about anything.
Yeah.
Not just baseball. That was my father and I. We had a very different relationship. That was all about making things happen and baseball. How do you hit a ball being thrown? How do you catch a ball being thrown? And then taking it to the fields to play with my buddies.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So it comes from there.
And I like it when you really visualize an architect, you create blueprint of the plan, right? A blueprint of the...
You dream it,
and
then you design it.
Yes. And you know who are your clients. If it's a house, a family, what do they need? Yeah.
Exactly. I used
Wonderful.
to always tell those clients that wanted me to do homes, your home should be a mirror of who you are. You shouldn't have to change who you are to fit your home.
Yes. Were there any specific moments or mentors that stood out to you? And I think you've mentioned them.
All along my path in the 5th grade, my teacher would always, when we had recess, right, and it was raining or we couldn't go outside for whatever reason, he would always play classical music, 1812 Overture, Scheherazade, and as the music played, he would tell us what the music was telling us. 1812 Overture. You hear that sound? Da, 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 da. Well, that is the French army. And then the next sound, well, those are the Prussians coming from the east. And then you would hear this battle unfold, and each side was winning at one time or another. And at the end, when you hear the bells, well, now you know that the war is over. Fortunately, the French lost. And all of a sudden, this music takes a life, almost like the building. What do you want to be? The music that he showed us. What does this music wants to be in order to tell the story? In music, no words. 1812 Overture is all just music. Scheherazade, the same thing, falling in love with someone from another culture, right? And like that, many other. So he was reinforcing that same idea of the dream and the reality that I grew up with. He helped me tremendously in my first year in the U.S. He liked the way that I sang, so he wanted me to be in a play that the 5th grade was doing, Oklahoma. So I learned English with an Oklahoma accent in Miami, Florida. But he did it on purpose. So I had to memorize words. Right? And it worked. As I got older, there was always a great American mentor who would see something in me. In high school, it was my counselor, McCluskey, who helped me tremendously in all of these things that I was dreaming, all of these things that I was trying to do. My architecture teacher in high school, Mr. Webb, same thing. My baseball coach, when I played baseball in high school, same thing. They all saw something in me. And they all gave me the inspiration, and they all gave me the, you can do it. My English teacher, Mr. Warren, same. All these American mentors that just by seeing that you want to do something, and here's the key word, right? By seeing that you care, want to help. And that's a big lesson that I learned that the listeners should know. If people know that you care, they want to help. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of that these days. Caring about doing a great product, caring about being a good student, caring about being a good son, caring about being a good husband, caring about what you're leaving behind, caring about your country, caring about, everything. If you care in life, you care about others. You hold the door for others who are coming. If you see a person who's pregnant, you get out of your seat and you let them sit in your seat. People notice those acts of kindness from those who care. And once you begin doing that, it's funny how it works. People of excellence attract those other people of excellence who are looking for people of excellence to be in their lives, whether they're your same age, whether they're younger, or whether they're older. It transcends age. Caring
You
about
mentioned,
becoming a person of excellence is everything
yes,
towards
yes,
having a wonderful life and a great future.
yes. You mentioned about caring. That's what I've been telling other people because my vision is so simple. Spread sunshine and happiness to all
Mhm.
so that it may create a ripple effect. And and when you mentioned about caring, showing kindness is free. Why not use it? Just a simple smile to uplift a person can make a difference. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So, did you encounter any obstacles in your professional journey and how did you overcome them?
Many. The first one, which was the most important thing I ever did, as far as my career was concerned. I graduated from the University of Florida, number one in my class. I left the university wanting to begin to practice everything that I learned. Eventually, I ended up in Fort Lauderdale, and I decided that I was ready to start Cartaya and Associates. That was in 1979. I was 37 years old. I turned 38 late in 1979. 37 years old. No, I'm sorry, 27 years old. I have Cartaya and Associates, right? 27 years old. I have Cartaya and Associates, and I want to do the large buildings, the buildings that I can really take my skills and apply them. Well, people who build large buildings are either the government or extremely rich people. Extremely rich people didn't want to have anything to do with a little Cuban kid from Hialeah living in Fort Lauderdale. So one day, after getting a bunch of small homes to do here and there, one day, and this is it, within the first year that I started Cartaya and Associates, I was frustrated. I can do something more impactful in the community. Who is doing it? Well, I just took the very rich people out. I tried. They wouldn't even let me come into their offices because they didn't know me, right? So I figured, okay, then I have to go to government. So I went to this man and I told him, my name is Mario Cartaya. You can look into some of the work that I did when I was in college. Heck, I even redesigned downtown Gainesville with the University of Florida when I was in my mid-20s. I know what I'm doing. How can I get into your list of people that you consider when you go out and select an architect to do a school or a city hall, airport, whatever? And he goes, Mario, let's start smaller with schools. Let's leave airports for later on. I will help you. But you're going to have to do a number of things, right? All this paperwork that you need to do so that you're in their database. So when they want to do a school, then they get 2, 3, 4 architects to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And you compete. Nobody else would design the building. They did the paperwork, and I'm so great because guess what? I'm great. That's what they would write. Not me. I would design it on my own, take all that time and design it. And I began to get the schools. And as I began to get the schools, because I did the work that nobody else would do, now I got other people looking at me. And some of the rich people, hey, who is this guy? Look at the school he just designed. It's beautiful. Who is this young guy? They didn't remember that I tried a few times because they didn't know who I was then.
Mm-hmm.
Now my work speaks for myself.
Yes.
And now they're calling me. And now I begin to bring them into my client base. And it's about the quiet confidence to find your way to your goal. Never giving up on your goal. If one way didn't work, okay, then be smart. Let's find the other way. Who's the other? Government. So I went and I was honest. Next thing I know, I'm beginning to build my office into the very reputable and award-winning office that it became, to the point that, 43 years later, I get recognized by who? The U.S. Congress twice. First, by having my history read in the halls of Congress, and second, by flying a flag over the U.S. Capitol. Think about that.
Mm-hmm. That's an achievement. Wow.
Right? This 2023 that they flew the flag. I arrived from Cuba 1960. So 63 years after that little boy left Havana, nervous that they were going to kill his father, I'm an American legacy enough that's worthy of having these congressmen and senators fly a flag over the Capitol in my honor.
Wow.
All because I never gave up.
Yes. Most of the time, a lot of people, they just get stuck in their comfort zone because they don't want to take the risk. And you took the risk of reaching out. Well, someone advised you, okay, let's do it small step, baby steps. But then it's still geared towards your dream. And now what have you achieved? Wow, wonderful.
You can kick the door down, but once you do, then you better produce.
Yes.
You better show who you are.
Yes.
They
Yes.
give you a shot. That's just the beginning.
Yes.
That's not the end. Now you begin to exert the career that you love in a place that you're becoming a part of and ahead of a family that you will soon have. That will then go to the schools that you design, swim in the swimming hall of fame that I did, go to the courthouse that I designed, go to the airports to fly out that I designed. My family and me became bonded, not just through my being a father every day, not just through me trying to inspire them to be kids of excellence and grow up to be adults of excellence, but also because their lives touched everything that came from my mind and my heart.
Yes.
We merged in that.
What is your goal or goals for the next 12 months?
Well, now I'm spending all of my time writing. As you said earlier, Journey Back into the Vault has been out. That's the book. And if you turn around the book, on the back of the book, this book has already won 5 international awards and 3 American Writers Award. My first book. Skill. At first, when I began writing it, it was hard to find a publisher because I had never published before. Just like it was the early days of my architecture, no one knew who I was. So why take a chance on something you don't know? But eventually, I did find a publisher. And yeah, it is published and doing very well. So after this, and once it began doing so well, I began getting phone calls from people all over the globe. And they're asking me, do you have the Spanish version? So I wrote the Spanish version. It's called La Bóveda. It's called The Vault. And this is out and it's doing very well in South America. I'm already set to go speak to a book reading in the Guadalajara, Mexico Festival of Books and the Cali, Colombia Festival of Books in Spanish. Mind you, this book was published around March of this year. Already, we've got to that. So now my third book is about to come out. This is the book that I think is going to really begin to give me a legacy as a writer, as well as the one that I did in architecture. It's called 100 Years of Friendship. Cuba and the U.S., 1860 to 1960. It's really an ode to my father and all his American clients and all these American CEOs that would come to my house when I was a little boy and would always talk to me, right? And kind of become friendly with me. To me, they were just Cubans who spoke English, right? As a little boy. That book, I spent a year in the Library of Congress 2 years ago, researching every document between 1860 and 1960 that had to do with both governments. From all those documents, not taking anybody's opinion, not looking at any book ever published in Cuba, because you know how it is now. With Cuba, is either the leftist propaganda that the U.S. was abusive and destructive and everything else, to then the rightist propaganda that everything in Cuba was bad and they were poor and they couldn't eat and the people were starving, blah, 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 blah. Both sides were not telling the truth in what they were saying. They had an agenda to sell the book. Once somebody wrote it in 1962, the other authors began to quote him, and that is a source, right? But the source is not true. Everything that I have is data that I found in the same Library of Congress, of the same Congress that read my name into their books. That book is going to be out sometime between June and August, probably more towards August. That's going to change the way that we teach the history of Cuba when it comes to the United States.
What do you think would be the major roadblock?
Well, the major roadblock is going to be that if you've been teaching the same thing that's wrong, that's a lie for 60, 70 years, and here comes a new book that proves that you're wrong, because everything I say, I put that government document as part of the chapter. You don't have to even look it up. It's there in the book to prove that what I found is the truth, not what you've been saying all these years. So I am going against common wisdom. But somebody at some point had to take the risk of saying, people, I love you all, but you've all been quoting people who are wrong. It's not your fault, but here's the true story. And you can look it up in the facts that I attach to every chapter, so you can see it, right? So that book is coming out. The other thing that's very exciting is that Journey Back into the Vault is now being made into a movie in Hollywood. We have the movie script already done. We have a director. His name is Tibor Takacs. We had a screenwriter who did a masterful job with the screenplay. We have producers. We have an ex-Academy Award winner that is a part of it. And we just now finished getting the legal documents to now go to the investors. If any one of your listeners wants to perhaps participate in being an investor in that movie, then please have them call me and I'll be happy to send them the package.
Wonderful. Wow.
Of course, as an investor, you're not giving anybody money. You're investing your money into a business. The movie is the business. Yes. And the business has an attorney that wrote all those documents. So the investor's money is safeguarded. They're the first ones who get their money back. Movie begins to play, but we're ready. We even have a cinematographer in Canada that wants to do it, but we're waiting to see what happens in Cuba with this whole thing, because we would like to film it in Cuba to make it authentic.
Of course.
The story takes place in Cuba. I want to make it authentic.
Oh, yes.
The director wants to make it authentic. People in the movie industry that have heard about this book and this movie, they're telling us, make it authentic, because the moment that you begin to win awards, then everything changes.
Wow, I'm looking forward. Imagine I did an interview with Mario Cartaya, who's now.
So it's about dreaming, right?
Yes.
That is a dream. How do you make it come true?
Mm-hmm.
Making it come true. We're almost there.
Yes.
We're done with everything except getting the investors. That's the easiest part. Managing to film it in Cuba, that may be a little more difficult, but hey, never bet against me.
Oh, yes.
We will be filming this in Havana someday.
Yes. And I believe in that. So go for your dream. Just move forward, take the risk. I always tell myself, go jump in, then live in regret later on.
There are people of excellence everywhere. You know, a little earlier we talked about racism. And again, I need to say something that I didn't say when we spoke. Most Americans are good people. That's my story in this book, right? They care. And when they know that that you care, they help you. All the names that I mentioned to you. And there's many, many others too. Going through college, the guy that I worked for when I was in college, Bill Epps, became another father to me. There's good people out there that want to help, but you have to earn their help by showing them that you care about your life, that you care about what you do. You care about how you treat others. It works that way.
Yes.
It's just living a good life.
Yes. Before we end, what is your simple advice to our listeners? You've given a lot of advices, but to summarize everything, what is your simple advice to our listeners?
Well, I'll give you one more. And I wrote it so that I wouldn't forget what I want to say. That by achieving a purity of heart, that's what you get when you're always doing the right thing. It's a purity of heart, a purity of heart, reconciliation even for those that wish you ill, like Marty's story, give them a white rose. So by achieving a purity of heart, reconciliation, and a soul at rest, where you don't hate, where you don't want vengeance. You see so many people calling for vengeance, so many people calling for hate. That is not a soul at rest. That is sad that people can live that. So by achieving a purity of heart, reconciliation, and a soul at rest, we can, all of us can, find the universal message of love and enlightenment that leads to inner peace. And isn't that what we all look for every day? Inner peace, but it doesn't come by itself. It comes with a purity of heart, reconciliation of those that want to hurt you, making sure that your soul is at rest, and then finding the universal message of love towards everyone and the enlightenment of who you are in this mad world, of that quiet confidence that I talk about. If you put all that together, then you will find the inner peace that I found. And that opens your mind to anything, to every possibility, because your mind is open, it's not closed. There are no demons lurking inside you.
I love that. We are very much aligned, Mario, in terms of our vision, in terms of our dream. It's really about spreading that love, compassion, and kindness to other people, even your enemies. Well, learn to forgive. It's about moving forward. Let go of what happened. I know people are good. Probably it's not the behavior. Probably they've gone through so much as well. That's why they're doing that. And I can also relay it with my relationship with my husband. I always tell my children, your dad is good. He's a good man and loves you so much. We don't condone his behavior because he was raised like that. But he's a good man. But I'm glad when they invited their dad to attend their graduation in college and high school, that means forgiveness starting within the family. So Mario, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
You can go to my website, which is mariocartaya.com. I do have Facebook, so they can always get in touch with me with Facebook, and I'll go a step further. I'll give you my email.
Okay.
mariocartaya13 at gmail.com.
Okay.
Mario Cartaya, like my name, 13. That was my baseball number, 13, 13 at gmail.com. Okay. Baseball has always been a part of me.
So for Facebook, Mario Cartaya.
Yeah, Facebook, okay. Mario Cartaya.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mario. And I wish you all the best in all your goals, your projects, forthcoming projects. And I hope we'll get in touch again. Mario, I've learned so much, and it's an honor to have you here at Dream to Rise.
Well, it's been wonderful having this conversation with you. Just let your listeners know to dream. Life is all about dreaming and then making that dream come true. There's nothing more beautiful.
Yes, 100% amen. 200% amen. Okay, so to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Till next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Such an incredible story of resilience and transformation. The journey is a powerful reminder that adversity can lead to profound personal growth and the ability to uplift others. It's inspiring to see how each one turned their challenges into opportunities for healing, especially for those who may feel lost or hopeless. I want to take this opportunity to invite you to explore my books, My Journey into Becoming and Dream to Rise from Darkness into Light. In my journey into becoming, I shared my personal struggles in overcoming an abusive relationship and the heart-wrenching moments that followed, ultimately finding my purpose in helping others live their dreams. Dream to Rise, an anthology combines the stories of 18 courageous co-authors who illuminate the path from darkness to light. Each narrative showcasing the profound impact that sharing our truths can have on those who are struggling. Together, we can inspire change and encourage others to embrace their own journeys. Remember, your voice matters, and there is a community of support waiting to lift you up. Let's continue to be beacons of hope and make a difference in this world. Thank you for being here and for everything you're doing to help others rise. For those who would like to be a part of the Dream to Rise Inner Circle, this is a mastermind group that fosters learning and growth. My main objective is to help the members rise and shine. Be a part of this amazing group and let's thrive to be the best version of ourselves. If you need more information, please visit my website, www.dreamtorise.info. Again, www.dreamtorise.info. Have a blessed day to all.